I have a few experiments that could probably be performed to disprove global warming and reassess what global warming actually is. I believe because of the way the weather is right now, with the added buildup of ash in our atmosphere, and thanks to all the fires, what's actually happening is we're capacitating more electrostatic energy rather than global warming. We are just more like a giant ferrogaseous state of electrostatic energy. And so when the sun shines on us, whether or not the sun maybe in its cycle right now is putting out more plasmic energy than in a different wave than we're used to or something, but I'm no astrophysicist. It's just noticing the differences between how Colorado is lately this year versus the last decade. The heat right now feels so dense. It doesn't feel like normal Colorado weather, which is very light heat. Your skin evaporates when it sweats. Your skin evaporates. Sweat evaporates when you sweat, and it actually cools you off. And it doesn't really cool you off right now. And it just, even in the shade, that's the funny thing. Even in the shade, it is still hot. And that's because we're capacitating electrostatic energy, I believe. So even with air currents, it's still hot. And in the shade, now, is that a result of gas? Well, probably, but it's not necessarily what people are thinking it is, I believe. I don't think it's simply just we're pumping a bunch of gas in the atmosphere, and the issue is that gas. The issue is that we're overpopulating more and more people, which is causing us to use more and more electricity, which is causing us to generate more electricity. And so, if you were to look at it like a mouse in a chamber, if you put 1,000 mice in there, yeah, their body temperatures are going to heat it up, but they're going to rub against each other, and that's going to generate electrostatic energy in there. Now, I'm not talking purely discharge of that energy, as with lightning and stuff when it's grounding, but the clouds, it's not very humid. It's the same humidity levels we've always had, and yet it has been raining a little bit more, but that's a result of the buildup of the electrostatic energy. And so all these lightning storms, we're getting a lot of clouds and just tons of this soot and stuff, and it looks like fog or nuclear fallout. So there's a huge misconception. I believe that if we could find a way to discharge that electricity out of the atmosphere more efficiently, then the capacitance level would drop, and the sun would feel just as it was. And being in the shade again wouldn't be so warm. You went to the park here throughout the summer, and it's just, Colorado's never like that. It's the most beautiful place, perfect weather. And so I believe I designed an experiment. You take 3 chambers, fill them with different gases, one CO2, oxygen, and then just normal air, and add like soot and stuff in there, and try to suspend the particulate additive or whatever. Yeah, mix it up. And then you would have another 3 chambers that are insulated with electrostatic generators, some way to generate static energy. You insulate the chamber, that way the static charge doesn't dissipate. And so while one is insulated, you can measure the length of which each chamber left out in the sun cool down. Obviously, the ones that aren't insulated are going to cool down quicker. Different gases have more mass. So what you're testing here is if one chamber is then filled with electrostatic energy, and it's insulated, and then you get it hot, and it even gets even hotter, and the heat lasts longer. If you discharge then that electro charge from the chamber and diminish the capacitive potential, then the heat should not insulate as long. And the heat, we don't have a way to, like, I don't know if barometric pressure, how to measure like heat density. How do you measure the difference of this density of heat? Now, I haven't checked the barometric pressure, but we're at the same elevation, so I can't imagine that it's too different. So if that's right, the Paris Agreement, that shit goes right out the window. All we gotta do is make these generators that can drain out electrostatic energy from the atmosphere, so that when the sun does come down, it's not already, the atmosphere isn't already charged, if you know what I mean. And it can't hold any more. It like with a capacitor, as soon as you up the amps, it gets really hot and they can blow up. And so, and a capacitor is an electrostatic battery, basically. So it would just fix everything pretty much. I think people don't want, either maybe it's a cover-up or whatever, if you want to get into conspiracies. Fact is that we like our electricity, we like our comfort, we like our luxuries and conveniences. And if people knew that using electricity, generating electricity, is what is causing global warming, it's not even just going to be a huge fault of industry, it would be just a political issue in general. And just like separating the classes in the economy through hyperinflation and manipulating market manipulation, right? Manipulating the markets and stuff. It's just, how can we fix it? There are new generators, motionless generators that don't use any moving parts, that are generating electricity. And so that's from air current. Maybe they figured it out. Maybe everything I'm saying is pointless. Who knows? But if we had those, and not just harnessing the velocity of wind and air friction, we could modify all our windmills, homes, even modify all our homes to dissipate electrostatic charge. And that should calm everything down and cool everything off just ever so slightly. See, it's what's causing these forest fires, I'm betting, isn't necessarily just somebody lighting everything on fire, but which a lot of them are probably softening for an invasion. You could say that, who knows. But if they are natural, if in fact natural, then it's because of an increase in electrostatic energy in the atmosphere, which is like my guitars. My guitars right now all have nitrocellulose lacquer, and this lacquer has never been so staticky. It's unbelievable how static it is. You rub your arm on my guitars, and they're practically sparking. It's unbelievable. And though nitrocellulose is a very high energy molecular structure, it's that these guitars have never done this. I've played for 15 years, and I'm not used to it just being so staticky. And the only conclusion I can make with then trees, especially because they're high energy substances, the way they form, the way they dissipate carbon, grow carbon bonds, it's all about electrostatic formations and how molecules construct themselves away from center of mass as an opposite to my gravitational field model. So I don't have anything else really else to say other than I think we could just solve so many issues if we modify like that. So solar panels, for instance, they are harvesting plasma energy by heat, and all you have to really do is blame the solar panels. I mean, if everybody had solar panels, there's a good chance that that is an issue, as opposed to if we can harvest electrostatic energy out of the atmosphere. And that I just don't have words for everything. And that we flip that around, right? So everything that we have been doing is causing global warming. It doesn't mean that we still can't have luxuries or electricity. It just means that we have to cycle it differently. We have to look at it like a biome. And so harvesting wind speed, that still uses electrostatic energy, but it calms the wind down, air currents, and it creates turbulence as the blades cut the air. And then you're generating electricity from magnets. And so you're just adding more and more electrostatic energy. And instead of trying to basically recycle this electric charge that we've generated. And so then we can keep things more constant and consistent. If I'm right, who knows? I think I'm more than capable in some regards to understand it. It would be a huge change. Everybody, we wouldn't have to worry about global warming. We wouldn't have to worry about all these things that are used as trigger and fear words, fear-mongering words to manipulate society. And then the people who do move around a lot, so like the homeless and all that stuff, they honestly could help us better everything, because they are moving around so much more that they would be like electrostatic filters in a way, if you want to call it like that. That people who are out in the environment more are going to encounter that substance more. So we could better a whole lot of people if I'm right. I believe I'm right, but and I don't have to even do that experiment. I already know the conclusion. It's one insulated chamber versus another with an increase, but the whole thing is the insulation is going to block the plasmic energy from the sun, so that's the problem there. You'd have to use some sort of refractor, just to get the sun. You have to get the plasma energy from the sun in there, so that you can, not blame the sun, but to blame the electrostatic buildup, and look at Earth in the gaseous state of our atmosphere as being a ferrogaseous capacitor. And so I have tried to figure out ferromagnetic gas. I cannot figure it out. If we had ferromagnetic gas, there's so many things we could do. It's unbelievable what we could do with ferromagnetic gas. Maybe one day.